Avi Seidmann, Everett W. Lord Distinguished Faculty Scholar, Professor of Information Systems, my good friend. Topics, social media analytics for knowledge discovery beyond Pharmacovigilance Insights.
Well, good afternoon, everyone. It's me and one more speaker. You can go back, okay? Thanks to Pete and all the DBI team. You know, we've been running it for years, and I learned a lot from those events and stimulated a lot of my research. So thank you, and thank you all for coming. I want to talk about something which is very interesting and highly timely, which is the issue of how do we deal with the introduction of new pharmaceuticals into the market. But there's some very interesting broad-based implication that shocked us as we went to this study. A joint work with Dr. Alon Bartal and Professor Nava Pliskin from Bar-Ilan and Ben-Gurion University. So there is a big change in what drives diseases in the United States, in many other modern society. And it's not a good change. You live in Boston, you all run in the summer, we torture ourselves. I'm running 5 miles a day and so on. I'm putting my bid on things, but it's not what happens by and large. This is how entertainment looked a generation ago. And this is how we look now. So the total weight is the same, okay? But we've grown up dramatically, and it's bad. If you look at the map of the US, if you look at the yellow part, which is us, Massachusetts, Vermont, California, and Colorado, these are the runners, and the rest are sitting watching television. And obesity becomes a huge national disease. It's not brought by bacteria or viruses, unlike COVID. It's our own doing. It's a matter of self-control. Easier said than done, but becomes a huge issue. Nearly half of US residents are diabetic or pre-diabetic. So it's a huge issue. And that's a disease that shortens your life, makes your life miserable, very expensive to treat, even under the best of circumstances. So what are we going to do about it? And what did we learn over the time? The biggest medication rush that you all have read about is the GLP-1 agonist, okay? It's a medication discovered by a professor of pharmacology in the University of Toronto some years ago. The problem with the GLP-1 is that it's also secreted in our body, in the small intestines. But the short half-life of it is 2.5 minutes. So you cannot sell a drug with a life of 2.5 minutes. So how do we make it shelf-stable? It took many millions of research studies, but the whole idea, it comes from the Gila monster. It's Mexican name, they call it the Gila here, which is almost like the rattlesnake, okay? And what it really does, when you look into it honestly, it slows down the GI tract. So you eat the food in the morning or here at lunch, and it stays in your stomach till Friday afternoon with no refrigeration. So what happens to food which is outside with no refrigeration? I won't get to detail, you know. You start getting bad smell from your mouth and your stomach, and you don't feel like eating. That's the whole magic. That's how those snakes, etc., kill us. They just stop the digestion and you die, okay? So you take a small amount, hopefully it will cure us, okay? Long-term effects, nobody knows. The other interesting phenomena that we know empirically, because some of the early drugs, like Ozempic, have been around for a while, there's a plateau phenomena. You start losing weight, typically 5 to 15%, but you can keep taking it at a cost of $1,000 to $2,000 a month. You don't lose more than that. Plateau, you stop taking the injection, you gain the weight fairly rapidly. So it's not a permanent fix, okay? And that's also a cause of concern. And if you see here, it becomes like a super people drug. You look at Oprah Winfrey, Ariana Huffington, and many other stars, and everybody talks about it's almost a bragging point, like Botox, okay? That become a social drug, we have to take it. So I don't know if I can play this one.
It's a dream come true for most of the people in this room. Thank you for inviting me to be a part of it, especially this year when the world finally got out of the house to see the films you worked so hard to make the way you intended them to be seen in a theater. And I also want to say that I am happy to see that Nicole Kidman has finally been released from that abandoned AMC. where she has been held captive for almost 2 full years now. It's good to have you back, Nicole. And thank you for encouraging people who were already at the movie theater to go to the movie theater. You look great. Everybody looks so great. When I look around this room, I can't help but wonder, is Ozempic right for me?
Okay, that's the point. That's become like socially acceptable, okay? Whether you're sick or not is a different issue. So everybody is thinking of weight loss, male, female, etc. And all of us now know spring started a few days ago. It's our bikini time, our speedo time. How are we getting in shape very quickly, okay? So we look good on the beach for ourselves, for the family, or whoever you want to impress, okay? The interesting part is, look at the stock market return that we've seen the last 3 years, okay? I just did this chart a few days ago, okay? And you see basically the blue line, the bottom line is the S&P 500, which over 3 years had a phenomenal growth of 80-some%. I wish we all had it all our lifetime, okay? But compared with these two leading pharma companies, Eli Lilly is the red one. It went up by 560%. Novo Nordisk, the Danish company, by close to 500% as well. So it's impressive. And then you ask yourself, will there be money for me in Medicare when I need it? Nobody knows. Because the amount of money that goes into those pharmaceuticals is unheard of. It's becoming like what I call the new tech. Those of you know granolas, that Goldman Sachs list of all the leading companies in Europe, more than half of them are pharma companies. There's a huge amount of money being funneled here. You see, even in the Boston area, building a shutdown, and what do you put in place? A biotech, okay? Because the public is sicker, but we also have technology to rapidly bring in new medication, new hope, and extend life for the individuals. Tesla now worth $110 billion less than the weight loss drug Eli Lilly. And Tesla was the darling of the stock market, as you know, for many years, okay? It's ups and downs, but they just give you a sense of what's going on in here. This is the Goldman Sachs, what you call the granola. You can see the list here. And why is it becoming black? I don't know. These are the list of the company. And if you look at the list, GSK, pharma, Roche is pharma, Novartis is pharma, Novo Nordisk is pharma, AstraZeneca, etc. There's one more below here, okay? And there's all basically pharma company dominating this European index. And what's interesting, there are two famous drugs, Ozempic and Wegovy. Wegovy has been approved also for just weight loss. Ozempic was for diabetics, type 2 diabetics. And the interesting part is it's pretty much the same active mechanism, okay? The GLP-1, but with different dosage. So the Ozempic is typically close to $1,000 a month. The Wegovy is about 80% more than that, $1,600. Because you take it 4 times a month, every week, rather than once a month. And the dosage is a bit higher, okay? And there's a huge world shortage of the drugs. Everybody's rushing to get them. With prescription, without prescription, becoming very popular. Now, a few days ago in early March, they also got it as indication for reducing heart disease risk, which means 2 things. Medicare has to pay for it, and you can convince your physician that you have a heart problem and you can get it for free for weight loss, whether your heart is good or not. So nobody knows how to stop this flood. Now, we were worried about it because you remember we just recovered, not yet as much, from the opioid epidemic. Everybody thought it's great. I'm depressed, I have some pain in the back, in the joints, and I want to keep doing my life. I take it, and the research shown it's non-addictive, which in effect is very much is. Are we going to something similar here? With the rush to find the miracle cure for everybody. So we put in several research questions. It's still ongoing study. Given the widespread adoption of GLP-1, are there any side effects out there beyond what the manufacturers were talking about? Because we as FDA, as public, want to know, are we hurting or benefiting the public? Are there any clusters of such ASC, adverse side effects? And how can we estimate the frequency of those unreported side effects? So we've done a rigorous study, still going on, kind of looking data from different social media channels, but we also looked at PubMed, going over more than 12,000, 14,000 studies discussing the GLP-1. Studies coming several a day because it's like the GLP-1 is the bestseller drugs. There's money around it for manufacturers, from compound insurance company. They want to know, is it working? Is it not working, etc. Because a lot of money runs around it, okay? Then we look at all the manufacturers' black labels, kind of what they claim are the side effect, and we cross it against CIDR, which is the pharmaceutical gold standard for side effects of drugs. So we put it all together. It's fairly complicated data analytic process. We basically started with collecting the data, identifying biomedical entities, identifying the side effect, crossing with the CIDR, and then also creating a side effect network. See what are things are being reported together by the same individual, okay? So if you track hundreds of thousands of individuals, are they reporting new side effects or repeated side effects? And what side effect are they reporting in correlation with each other? I have this and that, and then estimating frequency class. So it's a fairly rigorous study. And if you look in here, there are basically 7 groups analytically. The group number 1 is basically where all our group, the PubMed, social media, and manufacturers, all reporting the same side effects. Group number 5 are things reported only on social media. Group number 2, social media overlapping with PubMed, etc. So I wanted to see who is reporting what, and apparently there are a lot of independent observations and serious side effects in each one of those groups. So then we took out the other side and say, what are the new things? And we discovered primarily 21 potentially overlooked side effects that the FDA has not been discussing. Here's an example of the reported clusters, and you can identify it yourself very easily, okay? These are the GI primarily cluster, constipation, vomiting, nausea, etc. They are the mental health, sense of depression, anxiety, palpitations, worry, anorexia, etc., and sense of trauma, insomnia, etc. And there are also biological things like getting inflammation, drowsiness, hypertension, higher blood pressure, etc. So we see that users are making fairly reasonable comments when they're reporting on side effects, and they're trying to get some advice from others to get a feel, is it something that we need to worry about, okay? Then, I won't go to all our results because we're limited in time. Then we looked at something else, is the sentiment against the products or for the product. What we find is the negative sentiment is pretty much not significant between all the leading drugs. The names are here. And on the other end, there's a positive sentiment in terms of which drugs they kind of like better than other in terms of usage. Some downside to what we see in here, some called Ozempic face. When you lose weight rapidly, we get wrinkles, and the face changes its expression. So this advertisement I took for a Mexico bariatric center, they're figuring out they'll be out of business. Why go for bariatric surgery when you can get such injections and be done? So it's slowed down and it's too fast, and then you get what they call a Ozempic face. There are a lot of reports in the literature. I just put one of it, okay, of somebody saying, I stopped using it. The data is interesting. As successful as the product is, only 1/3 can last more than a year because of side effect. It's a big issue when you deal with diabetics and so on. So they go back, the doctor say, I tried it for a year, cost me $1,000 a month, whatever, but side effects are such, I'm not unwilling to tolerate it, okay? Is another example, Boris Johnson, he was the mayor of London. Then he was the prime minister in the UK for a while until he got kicked out. He tried to lose weight and he had to stop. He couldn't tolerate the side effects. So that's a serious business, okay? And interestingly enough, we looked also what happened to the retail. Are people eating differently? And Walmart has been complaining people on this drug are buying less stuff. And primarily they buy less junk food, okay? So you can see that other studies published recently by Morgan Stanley shows that my craving for sweets has gone down 80%. Okay? And they asked him about fast food. 2/3 of the people surveyed by Morgan Stanley says, I'm going to stop buying fast food. I'm moving more to salad. So all the fresh green, etc., all these salad outlets are having a ball, which was to me totally unexpected. I thought, if I lose weight anyway, why not go to Big Mac? Okay, at least I can enjoy it. No, you have to go to salad, chewing more, etc., which you could have done and lose weight without all this medication. Okay. Also, United Airlines published a report saying, if this continues, every passenger goes down 10 pounds, we'll have a saving of $80 million a year just on fuels. Okay. So there are a lot of beneficiaries coming in. So basically, the problem is that more indications are coming over. Now they're talking about also fatty liver, etc. So each indication means Medicare has to pay for it. Okay, can't argue. And you are basically a price taker. There's still not much serious negotiation in the US about the prices of these drugs, okay? And you can see some example on here. Then the FDA manufacturer are not reporting a growing number of those side effects. What we propose for the FDA and the manufacturer is develop an early warning systems. You cannot be in a position of other drugs like thalidomide and ACE inhibitor, etc., that everybody use them, then we take them out of the market immediately. The drugs do good, but there are so many side effects, and we do not know which patient respond well and who doesn't. So it requires a lot more research as we continue our study. So we discovered such CS21, such unreported adverse side effect. We estimated the frequency, and we found out which one are highly reported and which one come in clusters and which one of them are coming along in this process. I hope I'm on time, Pete. Good. Questions, comments, suggestions? Please.
Thanks, Avi. That was fascinating. Absolutely love the presentation. Question, are you surprised about the number of side effects given that, I mean, this is a question related to the FDA process, right? So the drugs went through the FDA process, went through the phase 1, 2, 3 trials. Were the trials just not done well enough and broadly enough, and they just missed things? Or what could account for why the FDA seems to have not done a great job here?
I'm glad you asked it. There is always a trade-off in those decisions of the FDA. It started with Ozempic, which is a far more effective treatment from type 2 diabetics than anything on the market, because the existing drug causes a lot of heart complication, increased cholesterol level, and so on. Not so good anyway. So you can do a lot more testing. It costs more money, so it curtails the innovation process for pharma company. The biggest challenge in most clinical trials I've been involved in a good number is recruiting patients. Patients are not comfortable, even if it's phase 3, we show it's safe, to be guinea pigs. Maybe even the COVID case. So it takes a while just to recruit them. And you can do only so much. And the selection bias, who do you take? You take relatively healthy individual and so on. The other problem is that in the US, physician can do off-label. So they can prescribe a legally sold drug for other indication than what's been defined for. I'm depressed because I don't look good in a bikini or in my Speedo bathing suit, okay? They'll say, you know what? Try it for 6 months, okay? But in the meantime, I'm on blood pressure medication, on depression medication, or whatever, psoriasis medication, and those interactions cannot be studied statistically. The problem is we want to accelerate on one hand innovation to bring new drugs into the market. On the other hand, we have to be very careful as giving the physician contraindication. Don't give it to those patients. But be careful. I was involved myself with a famous drug with a German pharma company. I was with the board a few times in Berlin also. And we thought it's as safe as drinking water. Turn out it's now sold with huge black label. It's a drug for basically enhancing contrast images on MRIs, okay? Liquid metal. Turns out that some percentage of patients with limited kidney functions, it causes a huge harm for them. But nobody knew because they rarely come into clinical trial. So You always need an early warning system and not just wait till there's a big outcry on 60 minutes and stop it. And that's what we're showing here. There's now a lot of indication, if you do careful analysis of social media and so on, to have a much earlier early warning system.
So this seems like so cool for an early warning system. But to get one more step, which is to say, oh, it's not potentially a problem, we're seeing it, you would need some other data, for instance, comorbidities, et cetera, to say, oh, it really is something. Do you see getting there in the next, I'll call it 3 or 4 or 5 years to get to that, I'll call it next level of data through this kind of analysis?
We're going to get them much sooner because the idea is first you hear from the users, the patient complain. And more than that, if they say, I cannot tolerate it, it means we have to rethink. If 2/3 of the patient drop it after 1 year, it's already happening. Even if they don't die, that is the worst case scenario. It's ineffective. As expensive it is, it's still ineffective. So what causes them to drop out is extremely important. Well before this, and that's what we're doing now as we continue the research. But it's a very good dilemma. How do you clinically verify? But the first thing is to raise the flag, say, here's an issue here. Yeah.
Thank you, Avi.
Thank you.